Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, October 20th, 2025 Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board meeting. I know that Denise is running a little late. I'm expecting that Sharon will not be joining us this evening. We have a forum at the moment, so we'll proceed. I don't believe there are any changes to the agenda. All right, so the agenda stands as posted. We received Jim's meeting notes. Are there any comments? Questions? Move it. A motion, a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. I believe you received notice from Jim that she will not have the minutes from the October 6th meeting ready tonight. We'll have two sets, hopefully, at the next meeting to approve. Any correspondence or announcements that needs to come before the board? If not, well, then we'll jump right into our new application. The first new application for this evening is that of Adam Higdon, 11 Duchess Terrace, site plan and special use permit, siding and roof-mounted solar.
Hi everyone, good evening. Victoria Polidoro, Modenhausen Shaw Polidoro, here on behalf of the homeowners. We were last before you in September 2024. The homeowners are undertaking a significant restoration to shore up the home, including working on the foundation. And so as they've been going through the project, we have a few site changes that we want you to approve so that they can keep moving forward. The first is that they were originally going to keep the existing siding, but as they started digging down, pieces came off, and now they want to undertake a full siding removal and install a new siding. So I did provide pictures of the existing creosote siding. You can see it's kind of shredding, and it is not the original. I don't know if you can pull them up.
Yep.
So they were able to uncover some remnants of the original siding, and so what they're proposing is okay, there you go. That is the original. That is the existing siding that is on the home now.
I'll keep looking.
Okay. Well, so essentially they want to take off that siding and replace it with LP Smart Side with a 5-inch reveal, which would match what the original wood siding would have been. And then the second part of this application is that they do want to install solar panels on the roof of the garage. The garage is existing. Oh, there you go. So that's a picture of what the siding under the current siding looks like. So the new Smart Side siding would match that reveal and layer. Any questions on the siding? Dan Arquette is also here to answer any questions with the builder. Why don't we do both?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the second part is just to put a solar array on the roof, and Jeff Irish is here to address that if you have any specific questions.
All right, Fred?
Yeah, sorry.
I want to start with Jim. Jim,
Okay.
any comments here?
So I took a look. This is needs a site plan special use permit applications because we are in Hamlet and solar panels and to replace the siding to do work. It requires those permits. The panels are on the garage at the rear of the property on the existing roof. Doesn't appear they'll be particularly visible from the river or from Duchess Terrace, so they will be visible obviously from the neighbors. The new siding is proposed. In addition to that, though, I did see it looks like new window casings, corner trim, fascia soffits, a new gutter and downspouts will be replaced. And then you noted an existing window well on the plan, so I didn't see when I looked at it originally. I just didn't know if that's new or if that's being replaced from what was there.
The window well?
Window well is replaced.
It's
It's
replaced.
existing being replaced. Correct. So there's a little more to it than just the siding. You know, and we did review last time the window replacements, but not necessarily the casings and some of the trim. And otherwise, it appears to be primarily a discussion of historic consistency with the landmark property and the nature of the hamlet, and then obviously discussion of solar panels. That's all
Let's start with the first part of it. Comments, questions from the planning board?
First part being the siding.
Yes.
And I apologize for coming in a few minutes late, and I hope I'm not backing up. But the LP Smart Side is what you called it?
Yes.
What substance is it?
It's cementous fiber,
It's an engineered wood.
engineered wood.
Engineered
Wrong.
wood. Okay, so the important thing about contemporary siding products is really how they terminate at corner boards, inside corners, and doors and windows. So are these contained in a channel, or does it fit traditionally like it would wood siding?
Fits traditionally.
Okay.
Yeah, no channels.
And when you say it's an engineered wood, it's wood
Yeah.
fibers? Wood fibers, are they treated in some way? And what keeps them from falling apart?
Yeah, if you're familiar with like zip sheathing or Advantech, so it's basically a compressed resin. It comes with a large warranty. It's prevents it from being exposed to water damage or.
Is it kind of like Trex?
No, it's more of a, I don't want to say compressed wood, but that is how it's made. It's
Like
wood fibers.
Medium density fiberboard, more like that?
No, that's more of like a sawdust material.
Okay.
Yeah, from the outside, it looks just like, cedar clapboards. It comes in two finishes, like a smooth milled finish or a wood finish.
Okay.
This would be a smooth finish.
Can you have a sample for us to look at site visit or dropped off at town hall or something like
You
that?
can bring it to the public hearing.
That's it.
And yeah, and how it fits on the house is kind of a key concern.
Mhm.
Just because when you see it from the street, you can't really look through the paint to see what's underneath it. Is it painted or does it come in standard colors?
Yes, they'll be painting it a historic color.
Okay.
Yeah, Benjamin Gordon makes board, right?
All right. And then does it come with any other accoutrement like the soffit pieces or the J-beads or anything like that caps ends or?
So all the install techniques are more like wood as
Okay.
opposed to a vinyl J channel or anything like that. So the product comes in 1-by material and 5-quart material.
Okay.
So it's all just board. Boards and-
It's the first I've heard of it.
Is there a
yeah.
product sheet
It's a-
in the application?
They're up for
Is there a product specification sheet in the
I
application?
don't believe so.
We can submit
Yeah,
that.
and I believe it has been previously approved.
Other planning board members?
And then what about framing around windows?
Let me just interrupt. I've had some folks request that both the applicant and planning board members speak more clearly into their microphones so that the audience can hear the conversation. Sorry.
If you pull up the plans, we do have the trim detailed. If you can go back to the sheet we just on, yeah.
That photo too is the sheet.
There we go. See, there's a door and window trim details. Do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah,
Can you
so-
read that from there?
Yes, it'll have a cornice up top with a copper flashing. So the copper will be installed shiny like copper, and it would patina more to a darker bronze color.
And again, I have to apologize for coming in late. Are you changing the window aperture size or keeping it the same?
So it is the same. We're not sure what was original because with the siding that's on there now is not original. It is it's a homostoke siding that degraded.
Okay.
We found remnants underneath, with a more historic exposure. So what's on the outside now, that homestoke's like 10 or 12 inches, and we would be going back to a traditional
But
5.
the windows are not being changed as part of this application.
Okay.
There are a few windows that were approved for change, but that was already approved last year.
So you're talking about trim.
No, it's just the elevation that I saw, it seemed like it was, not really an eyebrow, but kind of that squat windows on the second floor.
They do get cut off by the fascia, that's what you're saying.
Maybe, all right.
Yeah, all the windows there. Yeah.
Review the plans.
Anyone else? All right, Questions on the solar?
Which way does the gable face? The slope of the roof is oriented toward east-west or?
North-south.
Okay, so you're kind of in the middle of the block on Duchess Terrace.
Yes.
So it's unlikely that you'd be able to see it or it would reflect anything onto the nearby roads or anything like that.
I mean,
Sits up pretty high
we have
above the
Mr.
road.
Irish here to talk about it, but it's not, you're not going to be on a boat looking at town.
Yeah.
It's behind the corner, so I was saying, it's kind of hidden back in here a little bit, at least from the road and from the river. It's behind the back of the existing house here, straight back, Dutchess Terrace is up here.
Okay, so it's going in the garage.
That's
Yes.
what I'm saying. Something facing south.
Okay. All right.
Okay, if there's nothing, Jim?
Draft procedure resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Ed Higdon for site plan and special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125 for installation of solar panels on the existing garage and replacement of existing siding on the home at 11 Dutchess Terrace within the RCH and RC overlay, accepting the application supporting documents as adequate for further review, classifying the action as type 2 under seeker, for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. We'll schedule a public hearing for the application for November 17th, no earlier than 6:05 p.m. We will send it to the CAB, WAC, and KPAC for review. It'll go to Dutchess County Planning because it's a site plan, and we need 2 planning board members to do a site visit.
I'll go.
I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go.
Okay.
You drawn out, you pack it out?
Okay, so Greg and I will be in touch to schedule a site visit. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear her say that.
May I hear a motion? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
All right, thank you, and I will get you the cut sheet for the siding so you can send that to KPAC for the referral.
Okay.
Thank you.
That concludes the new applications for this evening. We'll move into old business. The first old business of this evening is that of Scottsburg Holdings LLC, 3652 Route 9G, site plan and special use permit for a flooring showroom. Good evening.
Good evening. So Tom Angel again on behalf of the applicant. I think we're at the finish line as far as I know, so I'm just waiting to hear from Jim that he introduced.
Yeah, we got the letter from DOT a couple days after our last meeting when we were here, so I think we have all the outside approvals we need. I think we have closed the public hearing. We did the secret resolution at the July 21st meeting, so it's really a discussion of the secret resolution at this point, unless the board has any other questions or comments.
Any other questions or comments?
The ZBA's already granted their,
The ZBA granted their variances applications, so all set there.
I think you are at the finish line.
Thank you.
So if I could do a motion, I think we have the approval resolution.
The draft approval resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Scottsburg Holdings LLC for site plan and special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125 for proposal to construct a 3,200 square foot floor and showroom and associated 2,400 square foot storage building as a business service not listed elsewhere at 3652 Route 9G within the CRB zoning district. Reaffirming the actions unlisted for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required, and as I mentioned, the secret has been completed on that. Based upon the review of submitted information, finding the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for special use permit, asking the board to find the work and intended use to be consistent with the general standards for special use permits and grant the special use permit conditioned upon receipt of site plan approval. And with respect to the application for site plan approval, asking the board to find the work and intended use to be consistent with Town Code Chapter 125 and approve the application inclusive of the materials by JT Chase Engineering, PLLC dated March 14th, 2025. You're authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed there. And just reminding everyone that in taking this action, the planning board authorizes the planning board secretary to provide the approval resolution to the applicant along with details on next steps. and that all plan sketches or other materials submitted to the planning board must be the same as those submitted to the building department or they could be rejected or required to come back to the planning board to be reviewed.
And her motion? A motion second?
Second.
I will poll the board. Craig?
Aye.
Edna? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Good luck. We're
Thank
looking
you very
forward
much.
to seeing this carried.
Appreciate your help going through the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next order of old business is that of Dove's Nest, and that will case out on code, site plan and special use permit. Good evening. Jim, you have anything new to add?
No. Wasn't even sure if I needed to come up here.
Well, there you are.
Here I am.
I believe this application, we're essentially in the same place as we were with the previous one. We have ZBA approval for the variances. We did the secret resolution on September 15th, at the September 15th meeting. And so we're waiting for the ZBA approval on this, I believe. And so the only things remaining is discussion of the approval resolution and any questions or comments the board may have.
Yeah, and the ZBA, as you mentioned, Jim, earlier, the ZBA did grant the variances at the last meeting.
Any questions, comments from the planning board? Then are we ready to go ahead with the approval resolution? All right.
We're doing a lot of talking tonight.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
All right, draft approval resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Dove's Nest for site plan special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125 for installation of ground-mounted solar at 102 Southlands Road within the RA10 zoning district. Reaffirming the actions unlisted under SEQR for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required, and as I mentioned, SEQR has been completed. Based upon the submitted information, finding the work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for special use permit, asking the board to find that the work and intended use is consistent with the general standards for special use permits and granting the special use permit conditioned upon site plan approval. And with respect to the application for site plan approval, asking the board to find the proposed work and intended use to be consistent with Chapter 125 and approve the application inclusive of the materials by New Energy Project Management dated July 7th, 2025. Asking you to authorize the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above-cited site plan subject to the 3 conditions listed there. And in taking this action, authorizing the planning board secretary to provide next steps to the applicant. And reminding everyone again that all plan sketches and other materials submitted to the planning board must be the same as those submitted to the building department or they could be rejected.
May I hear a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
I'll poll the board. Greg?
Aye.
Edna? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Good luck. The next new application for this evening, old business, is that of Christopher Travers, 500 Route 308, site plan and special use permit, ground-mounted solar. Oh, Gary Meek, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Is Mr. Meek here? He wasn't going to come, but we're set on that one. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so if everyone remembers, really quickly, this was a proposal for a shed down on Mill Road. Everyone did a site visit, seemed to think that it was okay. We have discussed this one, and we're waiting again on ZBA approvals, which have been granted for variances. So at this point, I believe we were just looking to discuss the approval resolution. Did we close the public hearing? Yeah. So we'll just be looking to discuss an approval resolution again, subject to any comments or questions that anyone would have about this application.
Comments, questions?
I think we adequately covered it in the past.
All right, draft approval resolution for the board's consideration for the application by William Meek for site plan approval under Town Code Chapter 125 for installation of a shed with a generator and fuel tank along the scenic road at 399 Mill Road in the RA10 zoning district. Reaffirming the action as type 2 for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. Based upon the submitted information, finding the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for site plan approval, asking the board to find the work and intended use to be consistent with Town Code Chapter 125, and approving the application inclusive of the materials for the cover letter dated June 4th, 2025, site plan by Decker Surveying dated July 10th, 2025, revised September 5th, 2025, authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of both conditions. And again, authorizing the planning board secretary to provide next steps for the applicant, and reminding everyone that these materials need to be the same as those submitted to the building department.
Questions, comments?
I'm trying to skip through some of the stuff here.
May I have a motion?
I move to accept.
Second. And I'll pull the board, Craig.
Aye.
Kevin? Sean? And I vote aye. We'll convey that to Mr. Meek, who I'm sure will be very happy. Again, now I'll move on to Christopher Travers, 500 Route 308, site plan and special use permit for ground-mounted solar. Do you have anything?
Something?
I don't, yeah, I think we're good. Is there anything you'd like to present, or are we just ready to talk about the resolution?
The only thing that happened since last meeting was the ZBA did issue their variance, and the DEC came back with a negative declaration.
Right, you have the JD and the
Yep.
zoning ZBA approval.
Yep.
Correct, Kim?
And we got the parking report that we'd asked for.
Correct. We knew about that the last meeting. All right, any questions or comments? Jim, you're doing such a good job.
I'll keep on talking. All right. Draft approval resolution for the board consideration for the application by Christopher Travers for site plan and special use permit in Time Code Chapter 125 for installation of ground-mounted solar and 500 Route 308 within the RC5 zoning district. Reaffirming the action is unlisted. Under secret for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. And I forgot to mention, but will, that we did approve, the board approved the secret resolution on October 6, 2025. Based upon review of submitted information, finding the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for special use permit, asking the board to find the proposed work and intended use to be consistent with the general standards for special use permits, and granting the special use permit conditioned upon site plan approval. And with regard to the site plan approval, asking the board to find the proposed work and intended use to be consistent with Town Code Chapter 125, and approving the application inclusive of the site plan by Hudson Solar Solutions, last revised August 8, 2025. Again, asking the board to authorize the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above-cited site plan, subject to the satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed. Authorizing the planning board secretary to provide the approval resolution and next steps, and reminding everyone that all plan sketches of the materials reviewed tonight must be the same as those submitted to the building department.
I move that we accept that. Second?
Second.
Pull the board, Craig?
Aye.
Edna?
Aye.
Tom? Sean? And I vote aye. Good luck.
Thanks very much for the speedy progress.
Oh, we'll do our best. The next old business, I keep looking at the wrong part. Wincliffe Court LLC, 7 Wincliffe Court, site plan review, addition of a carport with a deck. Coming? Okay. Jim?
All right, continuing on with the gym show this evening. So, again, we have another application that we were waiting for ZBA approvals, and those have been granted. So with that, we can move forward with the approval resolution for the board's consideration, unless you have any other thoughts or comments on this application.
I don't see any.
All right. Here we go. So, for the application by Wincliffe Court LLC for site plan approval under Town Code Chapter 125 for construction of the deck and changes to the exterior facade along Scenic Road at 7 Wincliffe Court within the HB20 zoning district. Reaffirming the actions type 2 under secret for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required, based upon review of the submitted information, finding that the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. And with respect to the application for site plan approval, asking the board to find the proposed work and intended use to be consistent with Town Code Chapter 125 and approve the application inclusive of the materials and site plan by Architecture and Construction PLLC dated August 20th, 2025. Authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above-cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed. Authorize the planning board secretary to provide the approval resolution and next steps. And again, reminding everyone all plan sketches of the materials must be the same as those submitted to the planners.
Questions? Have a motion? Second? Full board, Craig?
Aye.
Edna? Tom? Sean? And I vote aye. All right. That then takes care of all but one remaining application of new business, and that is of workforce housing, Rhinebeck Road, site plan and permit for affordable housing units. If we could, can we get another chair up here, or slide him into releases for the moment fishing. That's fine. Thank you. Good evening. How are you?
Good. Jacob, we just kind of run through of the changes that have been made?
Yes, please.
So based on our conversation last time, a couple of the minor things, we added the Darling Historic Sites to the plans. There's we revised the note about the tree clearing in the central green area to make sure that the trees remain and it's just the shrub, the underbrush that's removed. We did submit an updated lighting plan as discussed. And then as far as the pedestrian connection from the northern end of the site to Wells Manor, we did provide revised plans and a detail about pavement markings that we installed applied to the pavement along with some flexible bollards to kind of designate pedestrian walkways, bike lanes, and then a vehicular travel lane. We got feedback from the Rhinebeck Fire Department. They were perfectly fine with pavement markings. They didn't notice the bollard comment, the installation of bollards, so I requested clarification on that. I haven't heard back from them yet, but they would be flexible, they'd be removable, they'd be able to drive over them as needed, so it shouldn't be a problem for that. So, the way that it was laid out, I did have a conversation with Jim, so I appreciate, that help. The way that it's laid out is the vehicles will be on one side, the pedestrians will be on the other, with the bikes in between. Maximum separation.
This is generally following accepted practice. I provided Andy with a number of references to NACTO, Rural Design Street, Rural Street Design Guide, done by FHWA and others.
Small town and rural design guide, Federal Highway Administration.
And so, putting the bike lanes next to the vehicular lane is common practice. We do typically like to have a little bit more than 1 foot buffer, but obviously we're trying to work within the proposed width of the road that's there. The bollards certainly help to provide that reason that people wouldn't necessarily cross over it. They're not going to want to hit the bollards with the car. And then it separates the pedestrians from that vehicle with the bike lanes. And so having the bike lanes next to the travel lane is common practice. So I think this is a little bit of a hybrid, but again, it's on a private driveway, it's not on a public street. It seems to work for me if everyone else is okay with it. And it accomplishes the pedestrian request that we had, allowing for dedicated pedestrian way visually, and also has bikes in there as well, which I don't think we necessarily discussed previously, but we have the room, it's a very wide driveway. This is for me.
Often lines on the road.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. Often lines on the road are reflective. Will these be reflective?
Well, we didn't really specify the type of paint to be used, but we can make sure that they're reflective.
And the other thing is often lines on the road, when you drive over them, there's a texture change, and so you can tell that you're driving over the line. Is that
Right,
something?
that's just the type of paint that's used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a fine solution, and I appreciate Jim's thought and your agreement. Thank you very much for doing this. When you mentioned this, Jim, last time, you said you had some other ideas as well?
No, this is it. I think Andy thought about some of these as well, but when I started looking into what we can do that works within the guidance, but again, understanding this is a private driveway, not a public road, so it's kind of a different element than the guidance is typically used for. It's again used for public roads. And if you look at any of the provided guidance, the volumes that we're talking about for infrastructure like this that's painted on the road is for something like 2,000 to 4,000 vehicles a day. We're talking a couple hundred a day, so we're well under the volumes. I don't know what the speed limit's going to be, but I do think with the design here it works well. And again, it's a private driveway, so liability issues and other things, for lack of a better term, or they're the applicants, they have to be comfortable with this.
And to be honest, the way that it's laid out, you know, with the bollards, the curb line, it actually would be a form of passive traffic calming. It's, you know, narrowing that lane down will slow people down. Other than that, just an update on our outside agency approvals. We had a conversation with the health department this morning, and they're ready to issue approvals. We have some minor changes to submit to them. They're ready to issue approvals pending receipt of whatever easements we need from the village. As far as the DOT is concerned, we have a submission that will go in this week. I've been assured that once we submit the requested information, they'll be ready to issue their permit as well. And then we had submitted for Army Corps of Engineer wetland disturbance permit. We were able to narrow down the area of disturbance where the road crosses through the wetlands to less than 1/10 of an acre, which eliminates the need for any kind of mitigation. So we submitted early September, so we should be good once the shot clock runs out on that permit. And it's either 45 or 60 days, I can't remember which, but we should be good to go early November.
Can you also just confirm the proposal for signage?
Yes, all signage has been removed from the site plan. At this time, we'll plan to come back at a later date to get whatever signage permitted.
Could we take one more look at the sidewalk to Lime Club Road? Can you tell me generally what the degree of slope is off the sidewalk? In other words, if I'm walking down the sidewalk, there's going to be a slope right next to me, right?
Right. Yes, so the side slope of the grading, I believe it's at 3-on-1 or 33%, which is typical for a grade like that.
And what does that look like? Give me a hand gesture or something.
Well, it's horizontally, it's over 3, up 1. So it's
So it's not terribly steep. You're not going
It is
to
mobile.
fall off and roll down the hill there. Okay. Did Jim mention to you the thought I had, excuse me, about allowing for a tree lawn between the driveway and the sidewalk by sloping the tree lawn? In other words, this would not require you to cut down more trees or expand the fill area, because all you would be doing is swapping a slope that is there anyway, simply putting it between the road and the sidewalk, on which you could plant trees.
That's the first I've heard that idea. I would have to think about how that would work. Because what would happen is you'd end up walking along the bottom of the slope, and as you get to the top, you'd have a steep slope to climb, because you'd essentially be coming up the slope. You'd end up following, the slope here, and then you'd have a steep 33 or more % slope to climb.
Because the slope is very steep there, is what you're saying, at that point?
Yes.
So it requires depth.
Yeah, well, and, right, and depending on what kind of requirements we have, we may have to design and build ramps to comply with the code requirements.
Right. Could it be done lower than that? Could you do what I'm suggesting? Is it possible to do what I'm suggesting beyond that steep spot?
Again, I have to think about how that would work. If it's possible, it would likely require retaining walls or additional grading. I'm not sure that because you have to have a level spot, right? So
Wait,
They'd have to-
you have to have a level spot
Well-
for what?
Well, we have to create a level area for the sidewalk.
For the sidewalk.
It's,
But it would be coming off a rather shallow slope.
yeah,
You'd have-
it would be unconventional to do it that way.
It would be,
It would
yeah.
be,
Jim, you had some comments?
yeah.
Well, I just, I didn't talk to Andy about this. I know you sent it to me, but it hadn't been discussed, amongst the board. And I didn't feel like it was something for me to discuss with Andy individually, so, obviously we can talk about it now. I guess my concern with if you had essentially the road and the slope down to a sidewalk, especially in the winter when it rains, is all that, melt and rain is getting onto the sidewalk, which would create an additional potential icing issue, but, in terms of the engineering of it, I have no comment on that. It's
Right. I mean,
beyond my.
you had mentioned to me that, that plowed snow might come down the slope, but on the other hand, if the sidewalk is right next to the road, you have even more of an issue with plowed snow on the road.
Right, well, right, but the advantage is here, it's not like the DOT highway or another public road where the highway department or the DOT is clearing the road and then the private entity has to come along and clear the sidewalks. In this case, it's the same entity clearing both, so they could do one and then do the other, and it wouldn't sit there for a long period of time.
Right. I shouldn't, create a continuing controversy about this. The reason it's of interest to me is I'm imagining that I live there and I walk down that sidewalk. And what it's going to feel like to walk on a sidewalk right next to a driveway where there will be no shade because the position of the driveway and the sun means that until the very end of the afternoon, you won't get any shade on the sidewalk. But that's one thing. I think a lot of kids are going to walk down that sidewalk to go to the library and the pool. And when I look at it from Rhinecliff Road, I just think it's more attractive to have a line of trees alongside the road. So that is what I'm basing my interest and concern on.
Okay. Is anyone else, we can reintroduce you again to Christian Paggi, who is joining us and serving as our consultant for this project. And I believe, Christian, you have had an opportunity to review everything again and up to date, and I'd like to have you give a report of where you think we are with all the technical issues.
I'd like to make a comment on this tree lawn. We had a lot of thought and engineering that's gone into this.
Microphone, Tom.
A lot of thought and engineering and design has gone into this project. In trying to add what somebody wants to add without engineering and design and topography and hydrology, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, there's an abundance of trees on here, and if some kids got to sweat a little bit, let them sweat. They're not going to walk anywhere. I've got kids in my neighborhood, they don't exist. So I'm just, okay, we have one opinion. My opinion is, I think this is a fine project and it doesn't need a tree line. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Tom. Christian?
Thank you. So, yeah, we did review the materials that were submitted this past month and the month prior, just for consistency, because we were not here at the last meeting. We sent out a comment memo earlier today. The majority of our comments are all technical in nature, nothing that would have a material change on the plan. And for the most part, they are relative to the SWIP. So responses to those comments from Andy's office would really entail, possibly changing pipe sizes or a pipe elevation and clarification within the SWIP and the plans themselves, on construction details and things like that. So again, nothing material would change on the plan or that the planning board would be looking at. And nothing that I think warrants going through individually tonight. Again, they're all relatively technical comments. The things that I will draw the board's attention to, which I think does warrant discussion, that I've raised in our memo, and we've had discussions prior, is relative to the demonstration of outside agency approvals and execution of any easements or agreements that are associated with this project. Stormwater management agreements, the developers agreements relative to town roads, various easements, and then all of the outside agency approvals that Andy had mentioned. So I know that the board is getting close to considering approvals, so there just needs to be a discussion. I would recommend that the board have a discussion relative to when they would like to have those requirements demonstrated, either as conditions of approval or prior to any final conditional approval, just so everybody's on the same page. And I would also recommend that those findings, whatever the board decides, be also noted in any resolution of approval, just as a record of, so that the applicant has a clear black and white record of what the requirements will be, what the timing will be, and so does the board and the town and the building department once this goes to that phase.
I'll circle back to that. Are there any planning board members that have questions of Christian? Kim and John, this last part of Christian's report, would you comment on that in terms of what he was talking about, outside agency approvals and conditions of approval, and maybe we just want to share with the board how you would recommend we go ahead?
Well, I think that under the circumstances, I would anticipate that the approval that's granted by this board will contain a list of the outside agency approvals that are required. The board's approval resolution would be made contingent upon contingent upon the applicant proceeding with and receiving the outside approvals that are on the list, and that they'll have a mechanism that will be built in there to by which the applicant will submit proof to the planning board of the fact that the approvals have been issued. With regard to the easements and that Christian brought up, the only note that I have along those lines is that for any types of agreements like that, we'd like to see drafts of those agreements before they're finally approved.
Thank you, John. That's a standard way of doing approvals. Conditional approvals is done all the time. Authorities in the town under section 274A, so it's standard. I'm working on the agreement right now with the village, and if you'd like me to send you copies of the drafts, that'd be fine. I have no problem with that at all. But that's the way that we anticipate. We're up against our own time constraints, as you know. I know that you've been working on the resolution. We haven't seen the draft yet. I presume that they will be ready for the next meeting. I think if they follow what John's saying, just have the conditions and the standard conditions that we feel comply with.
Well, then what I would ask next, thank you, I'm glad we're in agreement there. So I would ask John and Kim and Jim, we have been working on a draft approval resolution, and perhaps you would update everybody on the status of that.
Sure. Yes, as Melanie mentioned, Jim has started a draft. We have taken a first look and reviewed it. We provided a draft to Christian as he was doing his review. Christian, if you have any comments, if you could get those back to us, and then we'll take a final review and then be able to circulate it to the board for, and have that hopefully ready soon.
And can you circulate the draft, when you're happy with it, can you circulate it to us as well so we can look at it?
We typically would post it online before the meeting, so we'll probably be having it posted online before the meeting, a few days before.
Okay, and that'll be a few days before the next meeting?
Well, we're going to talk about the next meeting.
That's it. I'll stop talking then.
Yes, that's the idea. The idea is that John and Kim and Jim will confirm and concur that they are ready to move it on, and Christian will review it, at which point we'll then feel ready to circulate it to planning board members for their review, faith and anticipation of an upcoming meeting.
I also, I noted the discussion about a developer's agreement. Is that done with John's office or is that done with Warren's office?
It's a good question. I'd like to see it.
No, in either event, of course, right.
You know, it probably would be best to send it to both, because the financial piece of it, that there may be town board interest in it, so
Right.
sending it to Mr. Raplansky would be a good idea.
Okay. And do you have any form of agreement you preferred, or should I just address that to Warren?
You can draft one to propose.
Fine, thank you. Okay.
I just want to bring up that I appreciate the additional effort that's been put into the sidewalk painted onto the roadway leading up to Astor Drive. And I would side with Tom as far as though it may be desirable to have a tree lawn separating the sidewalk from the roadway, I don't really see it as an essential impediment that, you know, would really make it nicer, but not any more possible. The problem that I have, the reservation that I have for approving this is that I think the project still does not address the fundamental issue of walkability to the village, which was the whole purpose in locating it where it's located. And I'm afraid that the residents of this development are going to be isolated unless they have access to a car, even to get to the nearby sports fields, library, and playground. So I wish that there was more effort put into gaining some sort of easement of use or some sort of an agreement with neighboring properties, or a letter of intent from the town and the village for sidewalk construction. I feel like the wood chip pathway is really not addressing that issue. I just don't see, you know, a mom with a double stroller, you know, going up that irregular terrain to get to the bagel shop. So that's my stand.
Anyone else at this point? So we're talking about the draft approval resolution has been sent to Christian or will be sent to Christian?
It's been sent to Christian.
Christian, do you have any sense of how long it will take you to turn that around?
Not long at all. I just think that we need to have a follow-up conversation on it that will help drive where our comments are going to go. So there were some discussions on Friday relative to the applicant looking for you know, timing of building permits for foundations. So I just think that we need to have a discussion to just follow up on where that resolution stands.
Where I'm going with this is how comfortable are members of the planning board in moving this out to 2 weeks as opposed to keeping it on a monthly track.
I know our office would certainly be able to turn around comments and coordinate with your other professionals in time for that.
Comments on your side?
Well, I don't love it, but we can do it.
Well, we can't love everything. So if you have an opposition, this is the time to speak.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? So we've closed the public hearing, so there's not anything more that you wish to add to the conversation this evening?
No.
Anything else from planning board members or consultants? All right, then we will schedule you for the next appearance before us under old business for November 3rd.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thanks.
For the record, this is the first time I've ever spoken.
You just did. You couldn't help yourself.
Very much. Thank you.
You couldn't contain it, could you?
No, it's never even go try.
He did so well up until that point.
We tried. We really tried.
Now that you spread out.
That was the problem. Comfortable and walk away.
Okay, that concludes the old business portion of this meeting. And we'll now move to our public hearings for this evening. The first being that of TNT Homes, 99 Russell Avenue, site plan special use and wetlands permit for the construction of single-family dwelling.
Good evening. Mark Kaminsky here, representing TNT Homes LLC for construction of single-family residence on a parcel of land located on the north side of West Avenue. Our property is approximately right there. It's a little more than 5 acres. It's 5.135 acres. If you could zoom out a little bit, Jim. An application is for a site plan, special permit, and also wetlands disturbance permit. And so just starting with identifying the features of the property, you can see these are 1 foot contours, so it's 1 foot topography. And so right through here, you can see there's a water course right through here, a stream, seasonal. And this bold dashed line here represents wetland delineation. The same thing, so you can see the color is picking up some water from the south. General flow is from south to north, right? And the same thing as you go on the easterly side of the property, there's a culvert here, and then you can see this right through here. And so there's runoff that goes through here. So this, once again, this solid dashed line is, this dashed line, the bold dashed line, also represents a wetland on the property. So back in March of this year, a request was sent to DEC for jurisdictional determination. There was no response from DEC on this parcel, and I also followed up with the certified letter to DEC just for confirmation. So this is a wetland that is under jurisdiction of the town of Rhinebeck. And so what's been shown off of this is I also have this. So this is a different type of dash line. This is the only area on the property besides here. I guess that's it. There, where it's not within a wetland adjacent area. And so it's very much limited. And so this area that I've identified right here, this is the location of the absorption field for the sanitary facilities. What's being proposed is a 3-bedroom residence. And so prior to making this application for TNT Homes LLC, I worked on this project in 2022 for the previous owner. And so this is the same location of the absorption fields on the site. It's actually the only location for the absorption fields on the site. And it did receive, the applicant did receive approval from the Dutchess County Health Department for this. It was a different configuration. The residence was going to be located higher, so it was gravity flow. In this case, and I'll get into it as we go through the slides, it's a little bit different for this project. It'll be, just because of the location and choice of the TNT to provide more screen for the residents from Russell Avenue. And consequently, its residence is ultimately going to be lower than the absorption field, so it's going to require a pump station in order to utilize these absorption fields. I'll just note the application has been made to the Dutchess County Health Department for consideration, just an amendment of that previous approval. In this case, it's just utilizing the same absorption fields, but it'll require a pump station in order to do that. So that kind of identifies some of the constraints on the property with regard to wetlands. and then the use, once again, utilizing this area for an absorption field. Access is being proposed. This will be the driveway access right through here. And so that was the choice of that. And what's also, well, I guess what I should also show is previous meeting with this board, there was a request, because I located all that significant, there's quite a stand of hardwoods and some conifers on the property, but it's fairly significant, some pretty large trees. And so I've identified the trees within the building envelope and anywhere that some proposed development is. And then the trees that are to be removed are actually circled, right? And so these are just noted here. You can see where the residence is. Here's a driveway, parking area, residence and garage, and then obviously some of those associated with the sanitary facilities. I note that this is the primary, this is the expansion. So we're only installation of the primary at this time. Limiting the removal of trees in this area. Jim, if you could go to the second sheet, please. So the second sheet, I provide some more detail with regard to the grading and drainage on the site. The lower section is just a profile of the driveway. You can see it's fairly flat. This is starting at Russell Avenue right here, and as you go, you can see a dash line is existing, solid line is proposed, and it follows the regrading as you go up, right? So I have the driveway here, have provided swales to capture any runoff, and then runoff from adjacent to the driveway, along with the driveway. Driveways are graded in such a way that there's swales on this side to capture everything. It's super elevated in this direction. Catch basins through here. And then as you go up, you can see these are the proposed contour. There's a significant amount of fill, as you can see. It's actually over 4 or 5 feet of fill. This is an exaggeration on the profile here, but it's that section through there. And so, once again, so here's the residence garage, a pool through here, and then there will be a drop off on this. The pool actually has a retaining wall through this section right through here. So it's a gentle profile for the road and allows for turning vehicles and actually emergency vehicles at the same time. This also provides just basic erosion and sediment controls that are shown on the plan where there's any disturbance to take place. And the same thing, there will be for design of the stormwater through here. It's also having catch basins, pipes, and sections, and riprap associated with it to minimize any sediment transfer. Next page, sheet, please. This next sheet is this is also what, this is the details that went to the Dutchess County Health Department. Once again, I just noted that in the previous approval, the house was up here. In this case, it's down lower, and you can see from here I have a septic tank pump station, and it pumps into the absorption field that's proposed. Once again, this driveway entrance has been approved by the Highway Department. I provided erosion and sediment controls. I think that was a request at the last meeting. And then application's been made to the Health Department for approval of the sanitary facilities. And I think that's it. I think at this time I'll turn the discussion over to Chris as the architect on the project to discuss the architecture of the building.
If you would maybe switch to the next page, or the first architectural page. There we go. That one's great. not a lot of change since the last time we were here. The only thing we did was reduce a bit of the size. We actually made the garage a bit smaller, and we reduced some of the covered roof area. There's a section here that we took out of the covered roof just to, we didn't need it. We just wanted to bring more light into the site and have less covered area in general. So those are the only two major changes that we've made since we were here last. We've also shown planting, fence, and lighting on the plan. The only lighting on the exterior will be 3 lights on this side of the building that are all dark sky compliant sconces, and then some lighting on either of these overhangs that are recessed into the overhang, just downlights recessed in. No other site lighting. Client does not want any kind of lighting out here at all. They're happy to drive down a dark driveway. Otherwise, we do have a schematic planting plan here, and accompanying that, there's a document that you guys received with the plants called out in more detail. If you want to go to the next page, I think this, again, the only changes here were to reduce some of those elements on the outside of the building. This is the side, the facade that faces the road. I do want to remind everybody that because we have sited this building fairly low, there is a mound that will cover much of this facade here. Naturally, there's a large rock outcropping. I don't know who's on site, but we've seen that. And we are leaving all the hardwood vegetation on that side as well. So they're doing as much as we can to sort of tuck this into the back. Welcome to go to the next page, but the other side, the other elevation of the building faces the pool. So, more glass on that side in a few places. That's, yeah.
I don't have any new comments. I have a couple of questions. One was we talked previously about the potential need for a variance for the garage, but we didn't talk to Brian about that. I just wanted to get clarification.
Yeah, so there was a document submitted to Brian. So Jim, if you could go back to the site plan. Sorry, maybe, yeah, that's good, great. So, no, actually, if you go to the first sheet, because I put it right, if you zoom in to this area. So, it was Victoria Polidoro was the attorney on the project, and so there was a request that was made to the zoning administrator. So you can see that the building and the garage are aligned. However, they are not parallel to the property line. So this distance is actually shorter than this distance. So it's closer to this road, this easterly boundary of Russell Avenue. Jim, if you just zoom out a little bit now and go this direction. And then it was on the zoning table where I specifically with regard to the setbacks. I labeled both of the setbacks, right? So attached garage residence, attached garage residence. And so there was a request made to the zoning administrator whether or not this met the spirit of having both the garage and if they actually, Victoria, maybe you could.
I was just looking for the date of the letter. It should be in your files because I believe the secretary was copied on it. But in conclusion, Mr. Tam agreed that by having a straight facade with the garage and the porch, it met the spirit of the zoning law and the fact that the property line was not exactly parallel. It was of no issue, and we do not need a variance.
Yep, so that was one I wanted to. Sorry.
Did you have one? Nope, I thought the other issue was going to be the historic preservation. And we did provide you with an update from our historic consultant, which you received. You had a question about a notation in the report, and she indicated that that notation applied to a very large general area. It was not, there was nothing specifically found on this site.
I think that was it.
You conducted a site visit, Delise and Fred, would you like to start?
Sure. There is, it's, first of all, it's really stuck back in the middle of the woods, and it's a really great site. Tough site to build on. There is a lot of large trees that will be taken. I will say more than 70% of them are in rough shape, meaning they have very large dead limbs hanging up. There's maybe one live limb and 4 dead ones that are the same size. The lot is, from the road, is very hidden, and you kind of step into this like beautiful kind of oasis. It's quite a nice lot. The house is, as they mentioned, there's it's kind of hard to see, but right in front of the house is a huge, large rock outcropping that will predominantly, it's probably got to be like 15 feet high, 12 feet high, roughly. That will hide quite a bit of the residents, I think with the limited size of the site, and I think it was really thoughtfully done, was my takeaway from leaving the site. I think, you're limited where you put everything, and I think it was very thoughtfully done, and I think it's going to blend into the background quite nicely.
Yeah, and I was there really for the CAB, and we had discussed this application at our meeting earlier this month, and nobody really had any significant issues with it. But I did want to go and just put eyes on the site, and I agree with everything that Sean said. It is significant that all of this development, the improvements are going to be within the 100-foot buffer of that wetland to the east, is it?
That's actually to the east and to the west, some of it. But, like the limit, the development is primarily here, so we're in an adjacent area here on the west side, and then this area on the east side.
Right. And this is not a DEC wetland. You said you had a
we did the entire notification to DEC, and DEC is not taking jurisdiction of
either of those water sources, and they seem to be intermittent.
Yeah, they are intermittent. I mean, Craig, if you remember when we walked back here, this is, I walked the members back right here. This is the proposed well right through here.
Yes.
Which I'll just note I needed a waiver from the health department just because of separation and once again the topography of the site and trying to be respectful of the site. This is all dry.
Yeah.
It's fairly seasonal.
Yeah, and some of the central concerns are with potential for flooding due to the development, runoff, siltation. I don't really see any of those issues being a factor with this particular development, and so I think that would recommend the approval of the wetlands permit.
Sorry, I do want to mention for the board, because not everyone saw all the iterations. The applicant started with a much larger vision, and what we have before you now is really something that respects the rock outcropping, and it doesn't go into any of the actual wetlands, although there's no choice but to be in the buffer, given the need for the septic. So I think the applicant and the consultants have really come up with a plan of something to be developed on this lot, that kind of squeezes in between all the sensitive features to the best that it can.
And one other thing to note, I believe you mentioned that any of the large trees that are in good health, the idea is to utilize that wood on site where possible.
Yeah, that's something that we tried to bring to a lot of our clients. This client in particular is really interested in doing that. So there's, there will be trees used here, and the ones that don't get used, because if there is decent hardwood here that we can use, we're not going to use all of it on this site, and we've been aggregating that using a lot of the projects in the area.
Just one last thing. So I took the board members and CAB to this location, this southerly side, and gave them the elevation of the first floor, and then you can see it relative. So this is the top of the rock outcrop right here.
And just also, what's the direction going to be for the terminus for the runoff from the roofs, and if you have to pump out the swimming pool, where does all that water go?
So, collected into roof leaders and it probably just, and I can't show that, it would probably, once again, it would probably be just discharged towards,
Directed toward the wetland?
yeah, yes.
Any other comments from planning board members, questions?
I'm just taking notes, I might have missed the status with Department of Health.
So submissions has been made to the health department. As I said, it was previously approved, right? And so I just requested an amendment. Instead of spending the health department's name to provide a legal path, I mentioned the engineer for Rhinebeck turns things around in a couple of weeks, so I'm hopeful to have it within a couple of weeks.
Anyone else? Is there anyone here from the public wishing to make a comment on this application?
So, I was responsible for doing all the notifications of neighbors and to the newspaper for public hearing. I inadvertently missed a notification that had to go to Bermuda. I utilize a digital means for doing all the publications. It's quick to mail. Didn't catch it. I sent out that notification to Bermuda today. I respectfully request that if this meeting could be continued, hope to have everything in a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks, if the board would consider that.
I'd be okay with that.
Everybody okay with that? All right. Unless there's something else, then I would ask for a motion to continue the public hearing to November 3rd. Have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed, abstention, motion carries.
Thank you.
We did suggest you to take it to Bermuda to this.
Well, actually, I thought I was going to take the entire board to
I don't think you can do that.
For sure.
Nice thought, but thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. In 2 weeks.
Thank you.
The next public hearing for this evening is at Susan Rowan, 55 Orchard Drive, site plan and special use permit for the replacement of existing hanging wall, walkway, and entry steps. Good evening, Warren.
Good evening, Warren Smith, architect, representing Susan Rowan, who has a house at the corner of Orchard Drive and Corning Street in Rhinecliff, the northwest corner. For many years, there's been a slowly deteriorating low retaining wall made of railroad ties, and finally got to the point where it had to be replaced. Susan talked to the highway superintendent, who said I was in the highway right away, go right ahead. She didn't realize, and he didn't think that, of course, because it's in Rhinecliff, it had to be reviewed by the planning board. So her builder cleared out the old retaining wall, and they got to stop work on it. So we put an application together to replace that previous railroad tie retaining wall with a stone, granite stone retaining wall, exactly the same location as what was there, which began at the corner of Corning and Orchard, returning to that house as the grade sort of feathers into that, and along with that retaining wall, Susan wants to put a blue stone walkway to her house and a couple of steps to that door, the primary entrance. Replacing, again, some deteriorated older material. Also, this application is a wooden fence screening propane tanks that are around the corner on the west side of the house, the northwest corner. We had a site visit there with Melanie Frick, and seemed fairly inoffensive, but I will let you speak for yourselves. Is there any questions?
Jim, did you have any comments on this?
No, nothing new, and
Craig and I did do site visit. I don't think we saw any issues with the project going forward. some work had been begun, as you indicated. The quality of the workmanship is excellent. Obviously, it's a needed, improvement. Coming out of the house, you need to be able to step down. The bluestone sidewalk is really lovely. Previously, we've approved projects on this property that are well done, and the screening of the propane tanks is going to make a big difference as well. I didn't see any issues with it. Right?
Yeah, I agree. The work that's being placed seems to be very competent, and they're using large, regularly shaped ashlar type stones, but laying them dry, and it's far enough off of the roadway that it's still going to permit some kind of off the street half and half parking, which for Rhinecliff, that's a rare commodity. Yeah, I think it'll be an improvement, and it's in keeping with the character of the rest of the hamlet, and it's not trying to imitate a rustic stone wall that never existed at that location. As you said, it was railroad ties before. I didn't find any photographs showing what the historic condition might have been, but I did look around, and there are some existing dry stone walls that are different. So I think that recommends this practice of putting in something that is not out of place, but is at least distinguishable from what's historic. So it wouldn't be mistaken as, a surviving historic feature. So I think that's a good approach.
Okay.
And also the screening around the tanks is an improvement.
Questions, comments from planning board members? Is there anyone here from the public wishing to comment? I don't think we closed the public hearing on this, is that correct? So may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So motion.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Jim?
The draft approval resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Susan Rowan for site plan special use permit under Township Chapter 125 for installation of steps and retaining wall and a fence to screen existing propane tanks at 55 Orchard Drive within the RCH and RCO overlay. Reaffirming the actions type 2 under seeker for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required based upon submitted information. Asking the board to find the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for special use permit, asking the board to find the proposed work and intended use consistent with the general standards for special use permits and granting the requested special use permit upon receipt of site plan approval. With respect to the application for site plan approval, asking the board to find the work and intended use to be consistent with Township Chapter 125 and approve the application inclusive of the site plan by Warren Smith Architects dated August 14th, 2025. Thereby authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the three conditions listed. And taking this action, authorizing the planning board secretary to provide the approval resolution to the applicant along with details on next steps, and reminding everyone that all plan schedules and the materials submitted to the building department must be the same as those reviewed by the planning board today.
Any motion? Motion, second?
Second.
Full board? Greg?
Aye.
Edmund? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The next public hearing for this evening is at 34 Mill Road, LLC, located at 34 Mill Road, site plan review for renovation and shop. Good evening.
I'm Frank Manzarello, architect, working with Jonathan Mensch and 34 Mill LLC on the restoration and renovation of an existing 1915 house that was once part of the Grasmere estate, listed property, in addition to the rear property for a primary suite and a carport. Does anyone have a pointer?
I'm falling down on the job here. Here.
Existing house. We've used vegetation to shield the new addition, which is offset mostly to the rear of the house. The addition is here. Carport further set back, creating a motor court and this side entry. We left in this proposal shows the driveway and the existing location. We discussed during the site visit the potential to move the driveway. We have a meeting set up this week with Robert Wine of the Highway Department to see what his thoughts are concerning that. It mostly has to do with safety and cars coming around the turn there. We think that would be great to be able to pull right in and just kind of disturb less of the site. The only issue was really our concern with safety. There's also a pool in the rear and a patio area as well. Next slide. Yeah, this is just a larger plan. The area in gray is the existing house. The primary suite, bedroom, bathroom area, small laundry area, side entry, carport. The buildings are all, the carport and the addition are separated, so there's a space between them. Carport is an open structure, transparent. We just need a great little transparency. So when you approach the parking area, you can see through the carport, and major interest really was opening up the rear of the house so that the people living there could really enjoy the beautiful sight on the rear, some lovely red maple specimens at the top of the sheet here. Next sheet, please. The top floor shows the existing layout. One element added to the front of the house was this dormer, which we've been discussing. We showed in the updated rendering. All of it, almost all of the rest of the house remains. There's some, really nice detailing in the inside. Nice woodwork, beautiful stair, all of that is intended to remain. We're putting two skylights on the rear to provide a little bit more light into the interior, to illuminate that kind of stairwell, and also to a small bedroom upstairs. What was a bathroom, which is, those of you who the site saw, it was almost like a tunnel leading to the rear here. We've turned that into a lounge on the ground floor. It's really going to be a living space. It has a fireplace and double height ceiling. So, would you like me to go through all the slides? Or I think we've had.
Do you want to see all the slides, or are people fairly
Or
familiar?
you can run through them quickly. I don't think.
I don't think that, I know that any of the people in the audience are already familiar with this from being on site visits or from being the owner. So I'm okay. I just wanted two things. When we were in the field, you did indicate that, is this the original pool location, or you indicated you changed it?
Right, we did change it. So it's not shown here, so we haven't updated any of the plans yet, but I could show you.
But I believe by moving, maybe you want to explain that you're moving the pool and it may change some of the setbacks?
It won't change the setbacks because the setback being granted was for this pergola here, so it's the closest to the lot line. What we did here was, besides making the pool slightly smaller, really the concern was being within the reach of this tree. So what we did is flipped it basically, so the front of the pool, instead of starting here, or starts here, and the pool would be more back here, which we think is a good thing in general. It's at a direct sight from the primary bedroom as well.
And the shed?
The shed here on this plan that shows that we had proposed a shed, and one of the things that we mentioned, there is a shed almost very close to this
All right, so we had, I thought, a very excellent site visit with good participation, and we really appreciated the time you spent going over everything with us in the field. And I will turn it over to the folks who were on the site visit to make comments, and then we have a representative here from KPAC who will also be giving some preliminary comments. This is not a final report from KPAC, but just observations in the field. So who would like to start?
Or was it just me and you?
Edna and Marty. All 1, 2, 3 of us from the...
Okay. You want to start? All right, well, thank you for hosting us there, and we had to kind of stay out of the drop zone for the black walnuts across the street, but we did have a very nice site, and I was able to appreciate what you had said earlier about the rough condition that the house was found in. All the plaster has been stripped from the interior walls, and the windows have been, I would say, mucked with a little bit over the years. It does have some intact features, and I hope that HAPAC will weigh in on that, and I don't want to steal any thunder from them. I felt a little differently after having seen the site and how things are going to be laid out there, and it's somewhat less impactful than what appeared to me, at least, from the drawings. So.
Edna?
It seemed to me that looking at the exterior of the house, it's kind of a charming garden dwelling for the master to look at. And when you were inside, at least I felt like I was in jail with all of these diamond divisions in the windows. A question I had on the site plan, if you could go back to the site plan, was any thought given to kind of switching the position of the garage and the pool so that you would be able to drive straight into the garage carport?
I think can I respond to this? I think one of the concerns there was that beautiful maple tree there and disturbing it. If we did that, that would almost require us to put the carport in front of the house, which we know was kind of...
Why would that be true?
This is the beautiful maple that I mentioned there. There's a smaller red maple right here. So if we're put on this side, we kind of have to either sneak in here and maybe put the carport back there.
So it's kind of, if you had to choose to have the driveway in front of the house or give up the maple and plant another beautiful one, maybe that's the choice.
I think once we have a more global understanding, I think it'll be easier to make some decisions. I think the driveway is definitely one of those things that will help us make a decision.
And I'm glad you're talking to Bob Lyon. I think in the field we all appreciated the opportunity to consider the driveway going straight into the carport, because one of the things that I personally find, this house is a little jewel. And having it as important as it was to the Grassmere estate, as much as we can do, I think we want to see happen. And I do find that the driveway will distract, in my opinion, from the sort of picturesque view of that front facade, which is framed with, the roof and the little benches and, all of that. So that driveway in the front, for me, is distracting, and I think you appreciate that. I do appreciate the fact that the addition in the back and the pool will be nicely screened by the hedges, because I think with them in place, you do allow the front facade, that whole part of the house to sort of move forward and retain its own level of significance. With the hedges there, it kind of looks standing alone, which is what is nice about it. I think the setback on the addition is appropriate. It was, you're making it recede. I think there are some improvements maybe that can be made there, which maybe Marty will get to, but those are the parts that kind of work for me. I will say that, unlike Edna, I found it cozy, and I loved the diamond pane windows that I considered to be significant character-defining features in this particular cottage. And the research we've done on the history of the windows, which were very unique, let me just say, it's not just the diamond panes, but the whole construction and the way they rise internally in the walls was an unusual feature, I think, even at the time. And from what I read, very indicative of this cottage style that was brought over from England. So there's a material, and we can talk more about those. I really would feel sad to see a dormer on the front, because I think, again, that would be very distracting from the front facade of the building that is important. And we also talked in the field about investigating the availability, which we know to be true, or the feasibility of the replacement of the roof in the terracotta tiles that we know are still available and were, again, a character-defining feature. So those are kinds of the things that we were hoping that we could, work around. I mean, we learned a lot. We learned a lot, and we really certainly appreciated the opportunity to see it. And you were gracious enough to take us on the inside and get a feel and a flavor for this. And I think what makes it important in retaining as much of the scale as you can is you have to see this house in relationship to the Grassmere estate, because in and of itself, it's telling a story about support workers and tenant farmers, or whatever they were on the property. So, Kim, I think you had a chance to look into some things because you were working with the ZBA on this.
Yes, and it was also not only just the ZBA, but also the planning board, had raised concerns previously about, about the dormer, about the driveway. Those were kind of the main concerns. So I just wanted to just kind of take a look at, what the site plan review law says, and just for the planning board's edification, and just for something for the planning board to be considering, because I know this is a historic property, and it says that the purpose of site plan review is to provide regulations governing the applicability, submission requirements for review and design of uses required to obtain site plan approval, to protect the natural, cultural, historic, and rural landscape and aesthetic of the town. And ultimately, part of the intent of site plan is to make sure that there is no adverse effect on adjacent lands or the character of the community. Again, I did review the comprehensive plan. Grassmere in and of itself is, of course, on the National Registry, and it's mentioned specifically in the comp plan. And this particular parcel, 34 Mill Road, is listed in the Appendix 4 of the comp plan for the historic properties as a multi-resource landmark district character. So there are just a few things in the site plan design criteria that you can consider in terms of the historic character, which is, in relationship with the comp plan, recognizing that scenic and/or historic districts should be considered in site plan design, including traditional building forms and layouts, which is evidence of the distinctive historic development of the area. This kind of goes to what you were talking about, Melody, about perhaps the windows and the dormer concerns you raised. Regarding building design shall make appropriate recognitions of compatible building forms indigenous to the community and the historic character of the town. And building components such as windows, roof lines, eaves shall be well designed proportion and relationships to the historic character of the town of Rhinebeck. So I just wanted to, again, it's just something, I know you've mentioned that you're talking to the board and you're considering some, considerations for the board's concerns, but I just wanted to just let the board know, even though it may be not specifically referenced, the historic character, but preserving the historic character is evident in the spirit of site plan law. There's a few resources that you can consider for that.
Before we start, can I just make a few comments? Yeah, I didn't mention the use of the materials that are the same materials that on the addition, that are on the house, plaster, the wooden timber elements as well. And I think it's interesting that each member of the board may have a different opinion concerning the character of that house. I was even telling Jonathan after the visit that, that kind of coziness, the kind of darker Victorian interior is maybe a good thing. It's like, here's the way people used to live or the standards of that time, and now maybe people of today are more about experiencing the outdoors, and house begins to open up on them here. So there's a kind of a contrast between what was here and what, how lifestyles have changed and materials have changed and things like that. So I think that's a good thing. So even those windows we find interesting, I think we can find a way to make that work. I've done it before, even older houses in this, diamond pane windows, and I think we can do this, yeah.
Marty? Yes, you did. And you have to introduce yourself.
My name is Marty Rosenblum, and I am a committee member of HAPAC. And we have to thank everyone. It was a great tour. It was a treat, and it's a wonderful building. And that's a blessing and a curse. We were first of all, everyone was very generous to let us see the inside, as everyone has mentioned, because we salivate at these places. We're often held at bay at the front door, so you made yourself a couple of points there. We were also very pleased about your openness to look into some of the elements that Melody said, and really anything that I would say at this point is premature until you make a decision and a submission of what you're going to do with these things, but they are clearly concerns that we had. The only thing that I could think of that might be helpful, both for this group and for yourself and your client seemed lovely as well, but frequently, as an architect, having practiced for years, it's difficult to explain to clients why, other than say because, and that never goes over very well. So what I have done is our group works with the Secretary of Interior Standards, and they have a series of preservation briefs. They have a preservation brief about particularly putting additions on historic buildings, and I'm sure you've seen it. It's rather lengthy. I've done an excerpt of the 3 pertinent pages and highlighted a couple of things. I'm going to give you one, and I'm going to give you one for your client. And I'm going to pass these down to everyone. I have highlighted, I'm going to bring up 1 or 2 things. And we realize there are trade-offs in these things. So we're not looking at the Secretary of Interior's to check off every box. That's a lot to ask, even of you, because I know you could do it. But one of the things, for instance, they ask, and I think this is a very important fact, is that when an addition goes on, that openings through the structure be made where former windows or doors were. And the premise that they work with is if the addition were removed at a later date, would the building be basically intact? And that's why they ask you to consider where you're making openings. I think that everything they say in there, as I said, it's premature until you come up with a proposal, but there are some very helpful things there in terms of roof forms, in terms of separation, your breezeway. Many of them justify, I mean, I find the design, I agree with what Melody said of the drive and all the things we discussed there, but there's a lot to recommend itself in what you've come up with. As Melody said, pushing back with the hedge, etc. If one looks at the guidelines from the Secretary of Interior, the preservation brief, you might even choose to push back a little bit further. I don't know, that's going to be up to you and your client, but I guess the only thing I'm saying in summation is, you know the concerns that we have, the roof, the dormers, the drive, and when we are doing final review, the more of these items that you can check off, the better within the spirit of your design. And that's really all that I have to say. We're anxious to see what you come up with. It's a great building. I would have snatched it if I knew it was for sale.
Questions or comments from planning board members?
Yeah, I just want to add to what Marty said, and I appreciate you bringing up the work of my employer, let's just say, for now. And within the Secretary of the Interior standards, there are basically 4 tracks that you can be on. You're doing preservation, rehabilitation, reconstruction.
Adaptive reuse.
No, it's coming up. I had all 4 of them. Even one out: preservation, rehabilitation, reconstruction,
And restoration.
and did I say restoration?
Well, yeah, you did that.
Okay, yes. So that's right, that's the 4th. And there are some very common threads that run throughout, but there are some differences among them. So I think it's important to be consistent about what you're talking about and not say on one side, well, we're preserving this, and then on the other side, it's something that's rehabilitation or a reconstruction. So we have to use those words consistently. And also, any of these activities that take place on a historic building really should begin with a roster of the character-defining features. Why is it that this building is special, important, significant? And with this building, the roof line is certainly, it's mentioned in the designation report for the National Register. And I think that makes it very worthwhile to protect that and make sure that we're not making significant and impactful changes to that particular feature. Not so much is said about the big gorgeous maple, which you may value, but we have to understand that trees have a life cycle and they fall over, and it's very often the buildings outlast the vegetation. So the changes that you're proposing are likely to live on well into the future. So I think the windows are really spectacular, and I recognize that on the one side, on the west side, they have been replaced in recent years. But there are very good examples of those on the east side, that grouping of, I think it's 4 diamond pane windows. So maybe you should consider reconstructing those, or bringing those back, because you do have very good documentation of what was there. I know there was some concern about the amount of light coming into the space, and having been inside the space, I agree, it is very dim in there, but the sun is a fickle master. It doesn't shine 24/7, and even on during the day, you don't really get good rich daylight. So just making the window apertures larger is not necessarily going to have an effect of bathing the space in sunlight. And also, along a historic scenic road, when you're driving up down it at nighttime and people are home and the lights are on, it lights up like a lantern. So having those diamond panes actually gives a special character to that building, even at nighttime. So, I'd be very careful, moving forward with any changes that would be impactful with it.
The planning board members? Is there anyone here from the public? Anything from the applicant at this point?
Thank you.
Okay. I think we are ready to have a motion to continue the public hearing.
We're going to need the jurisdictional determination, which is probably, maybe the end of November or so, I think, based on what you submitted.
Yeah, I've got it on my phone. I've got
Yeah, unless you've heard from them. They're taking a while. I'm guessing you probably won't hear from them. But,
It's coming up. It was 90 days. It was a couple months ago. I can't remember the exact date.
Are you looking to come back in a month, or do you want more time?
We have to answer now.
No, you can, if you're unsure, obviously the safest for you is to come back in a month, and if you're not ready, you let us know, and at that time we'll continue it. Is that, I'm getting a thumbs up over here. Are you getting a thumbs up over there, or
I would say at least a month, because of the amount of work that, the tenant.
well, you have the opportunity to go out 2 months. It's up to you to decide.
We can always push it back.
Yeah, let's shoot for a month.
All right. May I have a motion to continue the public hearing until November 17th?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion's approved. I think, Kim, we're also waiting on the ZBA, correct?
Yes, so the ZBA, they did receive your updated referral comments, and so they have closed the public hearing. They have deliberated, and I'll be drafting up a resolution to grant the area variances for it. So that should be expected at the November meeting for ZBA.
Okay. All right, so we'll see you in a month. Again, thank you very much for a very cordial site visit. It was illuminating for us, and I hope illuminating for you.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, the next big hearing for this evening is that of Darren Prince and Alice Smith, Atherton Road, site plan review for construction of a single-family dwelling, covered terrace and in-ground border fence. Good evening.
Hi. It's been a while. So where would you like to start?
It's your...
Well, the update on our end is that we heard back from the DEC. They reviewed both driveway locations, and they preferred the one that we are proposing. On our end, nothing else has changed. We've been waiting for a number of months now for that to come back. So,
yeah, John.
So I do have a question. Because I know one of the questions that the planning board had last asked was just applying for the JD. So it seems like you've gone ahead.
Oh, we applied for the JD like at the beginning of the year, and we received it. We received a positive JD. There's wetlands across the street, and they acknowledge the vernal pool that's internal to the site. So we received a letter, which we sent to everyone a few weeks ago, prior to the submission deadline, and they reviewed the vernal pool area is where we do not want to disturb. And so they would rather, I mean, this isn't really the one, but.
I have a pointer here. Press that second button.
So, the vernal pools in this area would be disturbed by the driveway coming in here, which is what was shown on the 2004 site plan. So the DEC ruled that they would rather us coming from Aberhart.
Is that a ruling made in writing?
Yeah, did you receive their memo? They wrote a lengthy memo kind of outlining their thoughts.
I saw a copy of the memo from DEC, but I was a little surprised that they're actually, I didn't think they got into reviewing site plans and approving site plans.
Well,
So they're a little puzzled by that,
yeah,
because what the language of the letter says is that there is a vernal pool, which DEC does not regulate.
Right.
And then they make a choice between something that they do regulate and something that they don't, and they said they would prefer that you put the driveway through something that they regulate. So I was a little puzzled by that.
Well, the logic in their letter was that the wetlands are across the street, and so they're contained by Aberhart Road. And the vernal pool that is internal to our site is part of the reason why they changed all of the regulations in January. So what they did is look at it and say, based on, like their language was based on their mandate of protecting state environmental resources. They felt that the driveway coming off of the 2004 subdivision would not align with the state's environmental mandate.
Did they believe that those were the only two options available?
Well, we've been working on this for 2 years now and comparing those two driveways. So we asked them to look at the two options.
I'd like to see exactly where the vernal pool is clearly marked, and I would like to understand the possibility of avoiding it. Also, the letter I read was stated as a preference from the DEC. It did not say, I don't believe you must do it this way. And no mention was made of the need to plow down a huge rocky area on the road in order to get the site clearance. I mean, that was not even an issue of discussion in this letter.
The rocky area that would be disturbed is in the driveway off of the cul-de-sac, the one that we don't want. We would have to blast through
I think
two
it's on the curb.
mounds of rock. No, we're not going to disturb the cliff that is internal to the site. And there was discussion about sight lines for the driveway where it meets Acker Hook, but that was reviewed, I don't know, like a long time ago with the highway department, who wrote a letter saying that they were fine with it, and then there was subsequent discussion about minor adjustments to vegetation.
I don't think
they were
that's
fine.
not how I remember it.
Do we have copies of the correspondence between you and DEC when you made the submittals to them for review?
You have everything that they sent us
I'm asking
officially.
if we have everything that you sent them.
In terms of documents,
In
yes.
terms of what your request to them was, in terms of what you were asking them to determine. I don't recall seeing that. And that's,
Again, an easier way to say it is, do we have a copy of your application, please?
Do you know?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so. I don't believe I've seen it, but it's been a long time, and that's
Yeah.
why I'm asking the question and asking.
I mean, we went through, we got the JD, so that's pretty simple. That's like a binary yes or no,
Correct.
right? So you're asking our correspondence after that?
Well, you obviously, you didn't get back from them, if I'm following this, and I'm not an expert, so I will turn to others to confirm. You normally with the JD just get back a yes or no, as you said.
Correct.
But they gave you an answer that was much more expansive than a yes or no. So I'm surmising that you gave them information to review about driveways that were proposed, not just a, did they want a JD, jurisdiction? Or
Yeah, the JD is a different department. So when you receive the JD, you actually have to send it into DEC yourself, and it's a separate department that reviews
So
the
what
site
did you
plan.
send to the department?
We can make sure that you get a copy of it, but I can tell you that there's, in terms of the technical documents and drawings and site plan, it's nothing that you don't already have on record. It would just be their actual application.
Well, I think we should.
Sorry, pardon me if I'm not understanding. So there's two applications. You applied for jurisdictional determination.
Yes.
And then I presume you've applied for a state wetlands disturbance permit.
Yes.
Okay.
And the latter, we have not received a permit for that because they're waiting on this board to determine what the final approved site plan is. But we did ask them to weigh in on the environmental impact of the two different driveway locations because that's been obviously the topic of discussion for a year and a half.
Yeah. So a notice of incomplete application has been issued by DEC?
A notice of incomplete.
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 application. Yes, thank you. And so would you be able to provide to the planning board a copy of your application to the DEC for a wetlands disturbance permit?
Yes.
Thank you. And does that include the request for DEC to express an opinion about the driveways? That application?
I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
Okay.
I mean, we did request an email to them once it was assigned to a biologist. I mean, it's typical for the architect to have kind of correspondence. We had phone calls with them, and that's totally normal.
So in addition to the application, any correspondence would be important for us to see as well.
Yes, with regard to the issue of the driveway, just so that we can understand. I think the issue from our standpoint would be to have an understanding of the information that DEC had.
Yeah, so I can read it for you right now.
We don't need to do that, we just like a copy, and then we'll take our, we'll have an opportunity to review it. So just send it to us.
Okay.
Jim, is that a close-up of the site plan?
That's the wetlands.
Does it show this vernal pool?
Yeah, I think the
Really, Mark?
vernal pool is this out.
Yeah, those are the flags of the vernal pool.
That's the house in the driveway. That's the house in the driveway. So your vernal pool is kind of up in, it's kind of.
So it's certainly avoidable.
Well, that's-
No, it's the adjacent area is not avoidable at all. The adjacent area is like, that's the wet area, and the adjacent area, if you flip back to the other one, is like this. So it's like, all of this area is considered significant to the vernal pool, which is this. Yeah.
So, I mean, from my perspective, the discussions we've been having, related to driveway location, certainly wetlands and vernal pools are one of them. Safety's been another one. There were a number of memos. I wrote one, the planning board engineer wrote one related to safety and other concerns. We've had discussions about the deed restriction in another memo that was written earlier. And I guess, part of my thought on this is that, based on the letter that we saw from DEC, it appears to me that they were given, and again, we don't know, again, we asked for the application materials, but it appears to me they were given two plans. One of them was the 2003 plan that kind of showed the driveway, which would go through the vernal pool. This is not a great example. I had a better one, but I can't find it right now. The other one is the driveway going here. And I still contend in the discussions we've had is that the driveway can come down outside of that wetland area. The wetland buffer does not go all the way to the property line, which is right here. So there is an area in here. Yes, there is a bit of a hill. We know that from the site visit. But there is an area here that is outside the buffer. And again, this is the buffer area. It's not the vernal pool itself. And we have been discussing how these things will take place. And apparently DEC doesn't seem to care about this vernal pool, which is odd because the new regulations specifically regulate vernal pools within 800 feet. But they've decided, I guess, that they don't have a say in this, or don't want to have a say in it. So I still think there's room for discussion of if the planning board would like to see the driveway go to Barrett Tyler Road, I still believe there's discussion of where it can go. I don't think it has to go this way, and I don't think it has to go that way. I think there is room for discussion if you want to look at it going to Barrett Tyler that doesn't go through the vernal pool or necessarily through the buffer. Maybe it would have to go through the buffer. There are always trade-offs. So that's kind of where I stand, and again, some of those trade-offs then relate back to the memos that we've had in the past related to safety needs and other things. So there's a lot of moving parts. I haven't spent a lot of time on this for quite a while because it hasn't been in front of us, but that's kind of my recollection as to where we stand right now.
I mean, there's one correction that we can't put the driveway out here. Like, this is a cliff.
Over there.
Over there.
It's a massive rock wall. It's very steep.
So, and I think our frustration is that we've been talking about 2 driveway locations for all of this time, and CPL didn't compare the 2 driveway locations. So we haven't presented, we haven't had this area extensively reviewed, other than us telling you we can't do it. We can't put it there without going in either the vernal pool or the buffer area. So we've had, our opinion, our engineer's opinion, our biologist's opinion, now the DEC. Like, I think at this point we have enough technical information and technical review to be able to determine what makes sense.
John, Kim, we're all catching up with this. We had some discussion that we're going to have to undertake. I mean, Jim, I do believe, as Jim pointed out, and I do recall being in the field, that there was a sense of people in the field that there were other alternatives that could be looked at. And I think Jim is referencing that as well. So we're going to be reviewing the information that you sent us from people. We'll be waiting to get the information that you sent to them. And we'll take this up, I think, at the next meeting.
Yes, I would agree with that. I also would agree that we should work toward some kind of, the planning board reaching a point of resolution on this matter in the short term.
Okay.
May I also suggest that we pull out what the highway superintendent's responses were?
This is a public hearing, so if there are no other comments from planning board members.
I had one other comment. That's an elevated absorption field? That's on the plans?
Yes.
Okay. The plans that you had submitted earlier showed that that was approved in like 2002 or 2003.
Yes.
Have those approvals been continued?
It's renewed, and the board has a copy of that.
Okay. And there's the toe of that embankment for the elevated absorption field doesn't encroach on the buffer?
No, it's right outside the buffer. We designed it backwards from where the buffer is, to not disturb it.
Anything else? I would have entertained a motion to continue the public hearing.
Is there a reason to continue it? I mean,
It's because we need to review all the material. We haven't, we looked at the DEC thing, we have questions about that. We want to fully understand what they saw when they sent that letter, which we don't have in hand. So yes, there's a reason to continue. We're not ready to make a decision tonight. Are we?
I'm not. I'm a little confused and a little unclear on some things. And I do recall having been on the site and having stood on that embankment where there's that stone wall.
Right.
And seeing that, there's a vernal pool there, which was clearly flagged out. And it seemed to me as though there could be a gentle path, not a straight line, but you could skirt the vernal pool
Can I say something? In addition to that, like the fire and safety to get around there, to get a fire truck, like when we talked about the board not wanting the cul-de-sac here, the cul-de-sac was put in for a reason. So the 500-foot mark comes down is for fire safety. So now, if you want to go to the site plan, it's a little bit more visible to the Dutchess County partial access. That for a fire truck to kind of loop around, it's a very significant, it's not an insignificant task. So there's fire safety issues there. And on top of that, this embankment here and this swale here, this is huge drop off.
Well, that's under your property.
Yeah.
This is the property line right here, so you can't.
This is huge.
You can't go right here.
Well, these are the things we have to look at.
I mean, but we were at the site twice. Everybody was there at
I was
the
down there
site.
twice. I was there once.
Well, there were significant people
Yes,
that were there
and they
twice.
seem to be expressing their own remembrances of what they saw when they were there. We have people who say they felt that there could be something there. That's what we're going to look at.
I guess I'm just trying to understand, to make sure, what is the path to resolving this? I mean, one way or another.
We're going to continue it to next month, and we're going to look at the information we received, and we'll come back better educated.
And
Now, so what
then the board should
specifically do
be
you need
close
from
to
us?
having what it needs to make a decision.
So what specifically do you need from us additionally so we can come to a resolution in the next meeting?
The primary items that the board's interested in is a copy of the application to DEC for a wetlands permit and any correspondence that you've had with DEC about the comparison of the driveways that they did.
Okay. Are we allowed to request any correspondence that you guys had with Hudsonia or any of the other people?
About what?
Well, Hudsonia was at the properties. So
Yeah,
you guys had-
Hudsonia produced a written report.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
point is that you have the report from the DEC that we requested from them. So, like, if we're gonna open it up and have all the correspondence, which, I mean, we have nothing to hide, it says, hey, look at these two driveways. But, like, to hold this up because of that, I mean, we submitted the DEC memo prior to the deadline for this meeting, so I'm just trying to understand what.
Yeah, but we weren't privileged to have any of the correspondence between you guys and Hudsonia. And there's been several correspondence because we got billed for it. So we don't know what your correspondence was, so we're happy to.
The scope of work was outside of this previously discussed.
Yeah, and their scope of work was outside of what we previously also agreed upon.
You don't have to present, you don't have to produce the information with the documents that we're looking for from DEC. If you choose not to do that, just let us know. And
That's
then
not what
we'll
we're saying.
proceed.
What we're saying, could we see the correspondence between you guys and Hudsonia?
If you identify the correspondence, we can take a look at it and let you know. Brandon Lyons is the attorneys for the planning board, and a lot of our correspondence is protected by attorney-client privilege and is therefore not discoverable through the Freedom of Information law. The information, the correspondence that you have, your application, and the correspondence between you and the folks at DEC are all subject to production under the Freedom of Information law. If you don't want to give us the documents and the board still wants to obtain those
That's not what we're
documents,
saying.
we'll
That's not what we're
apply.
saying.
Please let me finish. We'll apply to the DEC for production of those documents pursuant to FOIL.
Anything else? May I hear a motion?
I would just ask that if you're not going to produce the records that were requested tonight, please let us know so we can make other plans.
Okay, we'll produce the records.
I move to continue to November 17th.
Is that right, Gretchen? I have a motion. May I have a second?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carried. Thank you. The last public hearing for this evening is that of John Hetherington, 224 Southbury Turnpike, site plan and special use permit for solar installation It's my understanding that they have not received their DEC jurisdictional determination and are asking for a continuation. So I will go again to November 17th. May I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I think I'm fair in not asking for public comment at this point. But anyway, the last order of business this evening is that of a time extension requested by Robert Tortello, 33 Brunel Street. Do we know the nature of the need for the time extension?
Getting his plans together and getting them in to be signed. He expires on the 3rd, so.
Oh, okay, so this is just a matter of he doesn't have what
He's just getting everything together.
So I can bring up the plans if you want, but if you remember, this was the one in the hamlet where there was existing greenhouse and shed, installation of electric service, and the thing I probably remember was the barrel sauna that was going in on the property. It's really just a paperwork issue, so he's looking for a 6-month extension, which would bring this from November 5th to May 5th of, actually 2026. So
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. If there's no other business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Thank you, everyone.